Please now join me in a moment of silence as we reflect on the day's activities. Thank you, and if you will now stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Susan, I don't see Sharon. No public comments. And as usual, I'd like to share Policy Code 2310, which is 2120, Code of Ethics for School Board Members. School board members must avoid conflicts of interest and appearance of conflicts of interest as we handle the work of the board. We must avoid the solicitation and or acceptance of gifts in return for advice or assistance on matters concerning the operation of the business of the board. We must avoid the misuse of public funds, avoid misrepresentation or falsification of facts, and avoid making confidential information public. And as usual, I'd like to state the mission of the Lee County School Board. Lee County Schools will teach each student the social and academic skills needed to become a responsible, productive citizen. And is there a motion to approve the agenda?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the agenda.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the agenda. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. The agenda is approved. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of December the 9th, 2014?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the minutes from 12/9/2014.
And is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. The minutes are approved. Proceeding with announcements and reports, Dr. Bryan.
This time I'd like to ask Ms. Vicki Wilkins from Southern Lee High School. Her principal, Chris Dawsonback, is also in the audience tonight. Come forward and make a few comments about SGA.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, and Superintendent Bryan. I know you were expecting to see some wonderful young people with me this evening, some handsome gentlemen, beautiful young ladies, and that was the plan. But I'm telling you, with technology, in about the last 25 minutes, the plans changed drastically. I had some parents who had some second thoughts about their students being out. As they said, this were a daytime meeting, it would be no problem, but a nighttime meeting, they were just a little hesitant with the uncertainty of the weather. And I'm telling you, Mr. Dawsonback can attest to the fact we've all been whatever in the last 30 minutes. It's just been unbelievable. But having said that, my students do send their regards to you and their regrets. They were so looking forward to this. One of the unique pieces about us coming this evening is that we are in exams, as you know, and with these young people all being involved in so many different activities throughout the school and the community, this was the perfect week. We had a little tiny window where I could get just about 98% of them here. And so they are extremely disappointed right now. As a matter of fact, I had some parents, they said, I'll just bring them. I'll bring them. I said, no. I said, we'll still go again en masse. I said, that will be fine. We will make it work. But they wanted to come and share with you about who they are and what they are trying to do to continue, as we have said this year at Southern, our spirit of excellence. That is our logo. That is our belief about what we are trying to do with our students, not just now, but the students that are going to continue to come to us. And these are going to be the people that are going to go out and grow the community and touch the communities that they go into. And so I wanted to give them an opportunity to share with you what they do at Southern and to tip my hat also to what they do with our administration. But I'm not going to tell you anything about that. I'm going to wait and save all that and let them share that with you. So again, my apologies, and we're hoping, like you, for a 2-hour delay tomorrow. Yes, we are. But thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Ms. Wilkins. And with you and Mr. Dawson back here, I think we have young, enthusiastic people here, so you did fine.
I just want to thank you so much, Vicki, for everything you do for our students. You've been an inspiration for many years, and you continue to inspire our students and do so much.
From our chairman's report, I'd like to remind board members that the second annual North Carolina School Board Association Public Policy Conference is scheduled for January 22nd and 23rd at Pinehurst Resort in Pinehurst, and the registration is still open if anybody's plans change and they would like to attend. And I would also like to report that Mr. Akinosho, Dr. Bryan, and I met with Mrs. Dalrymple, Reverend Frazier, and Mr. Crumpton on January the 6th. We had a very cordial meeting, and we certainly appreciate your attendance there, Reverend Frazier. We talked about a variety of issues, including elementary school needs, supplement pay for teachers, and a list of things, and we plan to meet on a regular basis. And thank you for that opportunity, Reverend Frazier. Superintendent's report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Today, the North Carolina School Superintendent Association held a press conference in Raleigh, which I attended, releasing what our group is calling the North Carolina Guide to Strengthening Our Public Schools. And that guide had 6 main points to it, which I think are important. The first of which was want to make sure that our public schools are preparing graduates. All North Carolina students will graduate prepared for college, careers, and citizenship. The second part of our plan was assessment. School districts will use multiple balanced and appropriate assessments to measure student growth and achievement. The third part was instructional delivery. All North Carolina public school students will receive high-quality instruction delivered by the nation's best teachers. 4, a commitment to digital learning. North Carolina will embrace digital learning to transform our public schools and communities. Goal 5 is based upon human capital, to develop North Carolina's human capital for the provision of high-quality public education. And Goal 6 was funding for public education, that North Carolina will rank 25th nationwide in public school education, public school funding by the year 2025. As a sort of footnote to this, in closing, the quote that as superintendents, we invite policymakers, elected officials, business and industry leaders, educators, parents, students, and all stakeholders to join this conversation about what's best for North Carolina's public schools, to embrace a shared vision and strategic direction for public education, and provide the economic investment and funding needed to continue our forward momentum to improve our public schools and achieve success for our students. As I listened to that statement being read today during the press conference, I thought back to what this board has done in reference to that whole argument about and support for economic development, and thought long and hard about your vision and your goal of all children graduating from high school with more than a diploma. And it seemed to be very much in line with what the superintendent said today, and everything that you all have done as a board and what you're committed to from a support for students and our staff and our community. And felt really good being there to represent Lee County based upon what I know and what we've done here, and certainly important being there for our school superintendents promoting this vision for North Carolina Public Schools. That concludes my report. Smith.
Thank you, Dr. Bryan. Let's now proceed with committee reports. Curriculum instruction, Tamara Brogan.
We did not have a curriculum instruction meeting since our last board meeting on December 9th of 2014, but we have some upcoming C&I meetings coming up. All meetings occur at 3:30 in the afternoon. Tomorrow will be our middle school meeting at Eastleigh. Then on January 21st will be the elementary curriculum instruction meeting at Greenwood. And then we have the next high school curriculum instruction meeting will be at Lee County High School on February 4th.
Thank you. And facilities and technology, Mr. Sharp.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have not had a meeting since our last regular board meeting, and we're scheduled for January 27th for our next meeting.
Thank you. Finance, Mr. Akanosho.
Mr. Chairman, we've not had a meeting since the last one. We are going to have a new meeting on the 29th of January.
And policy, Mrs. Carlisle.
There was a policy meeting. Unfortunately, Ms. Bowman and I could not attend. Therefore, we had Dr. Smith and Mr. Akanosho fill in for us, which is much appreciated. And there is one policy under new business for this evening from there.
Thank you, Ms. Carlisle. At this point, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
Mr.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to move that we approve the consent agenda as it is.
Thank you, Mr. Akanosho. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. The consent agenda is approved. There is no unfinished business, and proceeding with new business. Mr. Akanosho, would you care to make the motion for first reading on board policies?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to move that the Lee County Board of Education approve the first reading of policy 6230.
And is there a second to that?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion concerning policy 6230? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. That motion 6230 is approved for first reading, and we'll have it for second reading in February. Is there a motion to approve the joint resolution that you have received in your packet?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the joint resolution. Resolution conditioned, however, upon its subsequent adoption by the Sanford City Council.
And is there a second?
Second.
And I would like to read this joint resolution into the record. Whereas historically elections for mayor, members of the Sanford City Council, and the Lee County Board of Education were on a nonpartisan plurality basis, and whereas without the request and approval of the affected governmental bodies, legislation was introduced and adopted in the 2013 General Assembly to change the method of election to partisan effective June 27, 2013. And whereas in order to provide for one or more partisan elections, this legislation necessarily requires additional cost to the city of Sanford taxpayers. And whereas the mayor, members of the city council, and members of the Lee County Board of Education feel strongly that Session Law 2013-220 is not in the best interest of our citizens, students, and public education, should be repealed. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the mayor, the Sanford City Council, and the Lee County Board of Education respectfully request our legislative delegation in the next session of the North Carolina General Assembly draft, introduce, and support the necessary legislation to repeal Session Law 2013-220 and restore the nonpartisan plurality method of elections in effect in Lee County prior to its passage. Further, that a copy of this resolution be delivered to Senator Ronald J. Rabin, Representative Robert T. Reeves II, and Representative Brad Salmon. And before we vote, Mr. Love, would you like to identify any nuances that go with a joint resolution of this sort?
Well, of course, is what it says. If the city, for some reason, doesn't adopt this resolution, then it will be of no effect, and you would have to decide whether you're going to go alone or go with them. But I understand that it will be adopted. That's my understanding.
The mayor and I've talked with this at length, and I agree, but the fact of the matter is this would become null and void if it's not jointly approved. Mm-hmm. Is there any further discussion?
I just want to say that I'm very glad that we're doing this resolution this evening because we fought long and hard against going partisan back in 2013. I remember making multiple trips up there to talk to different committees up at the General Assembly. One time I was alone, and one time I went with some city council members to try to stop this bill from going through. I'm totally sure that this it's not good for us to be a partisan board. It's not good for the children of our county. There's no sense in having a Board of Education be a partisan board. And so I'm so glad that we're moving forward with this to try to get that repealed and get back to nonpartisan status, because I feel that being a partisan board has a potential of interfering too much with what we need to do, which is take care of the children of Lee County and do what's best for the children of Lee County. And that partisanship has no business in this board and with the decisions we make. So I'm so glad that we're making this resolution tonight and going forward with it, and I do hope it gets repealed.
Well, I have some discussion about it too.
Please.
Because I come from a different perspective, having been elected in the partisan election that just happened, and we didn't discuss this resolution before it came out this evening. And so in thinking about it today, and I've been very vocal that I didn't think the Board of Education should have been made partisan, that I did not think as a non-taxing authority and as really a different kind of board, that partisanship didn't play a role in here. And reading through this resolution, there's a couple of things that I don't necessarily support, and that is that when you are a funding organization like the City Council, that perhaps the acknowledgement of party affiliation at the time that you declare candidacy is something that's going to help the voter. And so if we're looking at what's going to be beneficial to citizens, then I think that I want to err on the side of information. I don't think that a board has to be partisan in the way it conducts its business, but I do think that the acknowledgement of one's party affiliation as a candidate for office is something that can be used by the voter and by the citizenry to make their vote intelligently and with an educated nature. So looking at the resolution, I see where it says that we strongly agree that it is not in the interest of citizens. I'm afraid I cannot agree with that statement personally.
Any further comments?
I would just like to say, based on the cost of, I think Ms. Bowen and Ms. Brogan bring up some good points. Based on the cost of primaries, makes me want to vote for the resolution. Partisanship makes me want to vote for the resolution. But in general, I just think it's a bad bill, and most people that I've talked to think that the Board of Education should be nonpartisan.
And it's not that I disagree with it. I will say that. I just feel like sometimes change is uncomfortable, and it doesn't necessarily mean that the change is bad. It's just that it's different. And I think having a knee-jerk reaction to want to turn it back may not be, anyway, in full interest of all persons that are party to it.
I just want to say something, Mr. Chairman. I want to say this. I'm the first incumbent who have to run on a partisan basis. And I will say something that's very important here. It is not a good feeling to know that I ran for the first time non-partisan. And then people still know what party you belong to. Whether, this is one thing I want to tell Ms. Bowen, people still know what party you belong to, whether you're Republican or Democrat. But what's important is that it's non-partisan. It allows people from all the spectrums to come and vote their conscience instead of limiting them, and the primary, the cost of the primary, it is not necessary. And I believe that nobody, everyone I've talked to, no one have said to me, even during the election time, during all the debates, no one ever said to me, oh, we love for you to be the Republican or the Democrat that educate the children better. Nobody said that. People want someone who is fair, who knows about education, who is going to do what is right. They don't want to go to their Board of Education member now that they think we voted against him. Why do I go to talk to him? But if it's not partisan, somebody can approach you everywhere, and I want to support this resolution because of that, because of the nuance of partisanship. That's why I have to switch party, because people make you do things that you don't want to do. I'm still conservative, but because of the partisanship that I disagree with, that's the reason why I switch a party that I belong to, nobody that switched the party ever consulted, who changed it to partisanship, consulted this board before they did it. So people like me and so many others in this community want it to remain non-partisan. I talked to an old gentleman who's a Republican this past week who called me for something. And he said to me, I hate that we were going partisanship for education because it is not in the best interest of this county. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to add that one concern I have about us staying a partisan board would be that even though at this current time, our board we're very collaborative, and it's not, an issue with the decisions we make. Partisanship doesn't come into play for us. But I'm afraid over time that political, illogical thinking will seep into some of the decisions that are being made. And I just feel that that's doing the children a disservice, and that's what I'm concerned about, because education is really a nonpartisan issue. It benefits everybody if you have a great education system, and that's what I want to see. And I don't want to see any kind of political partisanship thinking interfere with making good decisions on behalf of the children. And even though our current board, we're doing a great job of, being collaborative and being nonpartisan in our thinking and decision making, I'm just afraid in the future that could change. And that's why I really would like to see us going back to being nonpartisan.
And also, Mr. Chairman, this board, we want it to do what is best for the children, in the best interest of the children, not in the best interest of a partisanship or party operatives. We want it to be in the best interest of our children, all children of Lee County, not in the best interest of party operatives who don't have children in the school system. We want it to be in the best interest of the children of this county, not just the taxpayer, but in the best interest of the future of our children. It's about human capital. No party has the edge over who produced the best education. I have 4 children. They didn't ask them who are your who are the party that give you the public education you have. They have the education, or the whoever. We have Ms. Wilkins sitting here. She gave a couple of awards to my children when she was organizing all the straight A's things. And no, she didn't ask us, I know she's a school official. Nobody asked what party you belong to. Nobody wants that. We want our children to be educated, and it's been something personal to me that I feel education should be away from politics, away from political party decision. It should be about what is best for the children of this county and for everyone, the taxpayer. Just like Mr. Sharp said, why are we spending $30,000 to be doing primary? For what? Because we want to do education for our children. I think it's important for us to look at every aspect of this and support this motion that we should not be partisanship. You're still going to win your election. You know what is partisan? I switch party, but I still won the election because people of Lee County wants me there. And that's what is important.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion, please signify by show of hands, please. Opposed, like sign. The motion carries. This will be forwarded to the City Council, and thank you for the discussion. And Zach, I apologize. We always like to recognize our reporters from the Herald when you're here. I apologize. I didn't see you back there earlier. And at this point, Mr. Akinosho, would you like to make a motion that we continue in closed session?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to move that the Lee County Board of Education go into closed session for the purpose of discussing information that is privileged, confidential, or not a public record under NCGS Section 143, 318, 11A, bracket 1.
Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. We will adjourn to closed session, please. We're back in open session, please, and the chair will entertain a motion to approve the Human Resources Report as presented.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make the motion that we approve the human resources.
Is there a
thing
second?
As a
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on Human Resources Report?
Nope.
Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. The Human Resources Report is approved, and with that, is there a motion for adjournment?
Move we adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We're out of here.
That's right. What time is it? It's almost time for